Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're going on a little trip, kind of like we're thumbing through a newspaper right now, all about Japan. November 2nd, 2024. A lot of news and announcements. But of course, you know, the deep dive twist, right? We're not just skimming headlines. We're looking for, well, the stuff you might want to dive into, those hidden gems.
Absolutely, got to find those connections, right?
Exactly. Okay, so let's get started with some tech and travel stuff. Google Maps, everyone uses it, right? Well, guess what? They're doing a huge update with something called Gemini.
Oh yeah, I read a little about that.
Yeah, so it's not just like finding the fastest route anymore. It's more like, you know, it uses AI and figures out what kind of traveler you are, what you like, you know, and then it like suggests stuff.
Yeah, it's like personalized travel plan.
That's so cool. And speaking of travel, there's this tourism campaign going on in Nagasaki. They're promoting something called Waronken culture. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, I have. It's kind of like a blend of Japanese, Chinese, and Dutch influences.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. It comes from Nagasaki's history as a trading port. A real mix of cultures.
Yeah.
And if you're like thinking, hey, maybe I should learn some Japanese.
So Chinese or Dutch?
Or Korean. There's this new thing, it's called Tata One Fun Kankokuga.
What's that mean?
It means just 1 minute Korean. This is, you know, learning the basics, like if you only have a minute or two.
I love that. Little.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. Instead of articles or research papers, we're diving into a conversation between two artists, Hideki and Mayumi. Think of it as kind of like eavesdropping on a brainstorming session,
Yeah.
getting a glimpse into how artists are thinking about their work and the art world today.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that it's not just about the art itself,
Right.
but how these artists are navigating such a changing landscape. You know, the rise of technology, the need to be entrepreneurial, the importance of community.
When we start with Hideki, we're reflecting on a recent experience at the Luminar event in Tokyo.
Okay.
Popular spot for young people.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Hideki's work didn't quite connect with the audience there.
Interesting.
He creates these really intricate sculptures using recycled materials.
Oh, cool.
And I guess he was expecting a stronger reaction.
Yeah, his takeaway is really interesting. You know, he realizes that reaching a younger audience might require a different approach. It's not enough to just create great art. You have to think about presentation,
Right.
engagement, how the work is experienced in different spaces, both physical and digital.
That's a really good point. He even mentions another artist, Emu-san,
Okay.
who's found a lot of success by promoting their work on multiple platforms and collaborating with other creators.
Interesting.
It sounds like Hideki's realizing he needs to think more strategically about how he's putting his art out into the world.
Exactly. And it connects to a larger trend we see in the creative industries. Artists are becoming more like entrepreneurs, building a brand across platforms.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how this applies to other fields as well. Are there multiple avenues you could be exploring to reach your audience?
Definitely something to think about. Now the conversation shifts to Mayumi.
Okay.
She describes her incredibly busy daily routine.
Wow.
Mornings are dedicated to personal development, and afternoons are spent promoting the talents of others. She actually runs a successful online platform where she curates and showcases emerging artists.
It's impressive how she manages her time.
I know, it's amazing.
And it makes Hideki's next suggestion even more surprising.
Yeah.
Out of the blue, he proposes that Mayumi launch a daily 15-minute podcast.
And I know, right? It seemed like a curveball, and understandably,
Yeah.
Mayumi is hesitant at first.
Yeah.
She's already juggling so much,
Right.
and finding the time for a daily podcast seems almost impossible.
But what I found interesting is that she doesn't completely dismiss the idea.
Right.
She sees it as a potential way to stay connected to the art world,
Yeah.
maybe even build a new community, while still prioritizing her other commitments.
Yeah, it's like she's realizing that a podcast could actually fit into her busy schedule, not disrupt it.
Right.
Maybe even enhance it by opening up new possibilities.
That's a key takeaway there.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to pursue passions within the constraints of our daily lives.
Right.
How can we integrate new things without getting overwhelmed?
It's a question many of us grapple with.
Absolutely. And this conversation takes an unexpected turn when they start talking about AI and music.
Oh.
Mayumi actually experimented with AI music composition recently,
Wow.
thanks to a suggestion from Hideki.
Interesting.
She even shares a charming anecdote about a poem she wrote inspired by a trip to Greece.
Ooh.
She used AI to transform this poem into a song, and she's absolutely loving the results.
Wow, that's so cool.
She's even using it as background in music now.
Wow, this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just a cool story.
Right.
It highlights how AI and technology are changing creative processes across the board.
Yeah.
In this case, it gave Mayumi a way to create music even though she doesn't play an instrument. This makes me wonder, how is AI impacting your field?
Yeah.
Are there ways it's changing how you work, think, or create?
That's a great question. Now, speaking of technology community,
Okay.
Mayumi brings up her involvement in the SLab community.
Okay.
It's a paid online group focused on creativity and innovation. Cool.
And it's growing incredibly fast.
And what Mayumi finds fascinating is how the community is organically structuring itself. People are forming roles and departments based on their skills and interests.
Yeah.
Almost like a company in its early stages.
Right.
It's a great example of self-organization and how effective it can be.
She even compares it to the early days of the company,
Yeah.
with people naturally gravitating towards roles that suit their strengths. And this is especially significant for Mayumi because she usually prefers to work independently.
Right.
So it seems like being part of this SLab community is pushing her outside her comfort zone in a positive way.
It really makes you think about the power of collaborative structures.
Yeah.
Are there ways to harness this kind of organic, bottom-up structure in your own work or projects? It's a fascinating concept to consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Mayumi's insights aren't limited to the digital world.
Huh?
She also brings up a Japanese drama she's been watching called Trillion Game. It's about these two young entrepreneurs who build a billion-dollar company from scratch.
Wow.
And it's given her a new perspective on the mechanics of business growth.
It's intriguing how she's drawing parallels between the show's fictional world and her own experiences.
Yeah.
She specifically mentions being struck by the strategies used for fundraising
Right.
and the importance of constant evolution and adaptation in the marketplace.
And this leads to a crucial point she makes about the evolving role of the artist in today's world.
Okay.
It's not enough to just create art. You have to be entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
agile, willing to explore multiple avenues for your work.
Great.
It sounds like watching Trillion Game was a bit of an aha moment for her.
It definitely sparked a connection between seemingly disparate worlds, entertainment and entrepreneurship.
Right.
And that's something we see throughout this conversation.
Yeah.
The blurring of lines between different fields and how experiences from one area can inform and inspire another.
It's like a constant reminder to stay open to new influences and perspectives.
Exactly. And Mayumi is putting this into practice herself.
Yeah.
She mentions plans to diversify her activities,
Okay.
including organizing an art exhibition in a natural setting,
Oh,
inspired by her recent trip to Kyoto.
that sounds really intriguing.
Yeah.
She wants to create an immersive experience where art interacts with the natural environment. It makes me wonder, are there unconventional ways to present your work or ideas
Yeah.
that could create a more powerful impact?
That's a great question to consider.
Yeah.
It speaks to the need for constant innovation and thinking outside the box no matter what field you're in.
Now, the conversation takes an interesting turn towards politics.
Okay.
Mayumi brings up Donald Trump's recent foray into the world of podcasts.
Oh, wow.
Apparently, he's using it as a platform to share his views and connect with his supporters.
And what's interesting is Mayumi's prediction that this trend will soon reach Japan. She believes politicians are starting to recognize the power of podcasts. It's a way to connect directly with audiences, bypassing traditional media channels.
It's like she's saying, hey, if Trump is doing it, it's only a matter of time before Japanese politicians catch on.
And this ties back to our earlier discussion about the changing media landscape
Yeah.
and the need to adapt.
Right.
If artists need to be more entrepreneurial, so do politicians.
Yeah.
They need to be where the people are. And increasingly,
Right.
that's on platforms like podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you think about the implications for the future of media
Yeah,
and how we consume information.
definitely. And it brings us back to the podcast proposal.
Okay.
After this wide-ranging conversation, Mayumi finally agrees to give it a try, starting in December.
But they're approaching it with a sense of playfulness and flexibility.
Right.
It's an experiment, a
Yeah.
wait-and-see approach.
Mhm.
They might do daily episodes,
Yeah.
or they might adjust the format as they go along.
It's almost like they're inviting us, the listeners, along on this journey of creation and collaboration. You get to see the podcast being born
Yeah.
with all its uncertainties and possibilities.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
Right.
We're not just hearing about a podcast,
Yeah.
we're witnessing the very moment it's conceived.
It's a reminder that even the most successful projects often start with a simple conversation,
Yeah.
a spark of an idea. And speaking of starting things, Mayumi shares a pretty personal detail about her daily routine.
Okay.
She dedicates her mornings to personal development and what she calls adjusting things. Basically getting herself mentally and emotionally ready for the day.
That really resonated with me.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of self-care and finding those routines that help us center ourselves, especially when we have busy schedules.
Right.
Think about your own morning routine.
Yeah.
Are there things you do to prepare yourself for the day's challenges and opportunities?
It's a great reminder that self-care isn't selfish. It's essential for showing up as our best selves.
Right.
And everything we do now, going back to the S-Lab community,
Okay.
Mayumi mentions how she's learning a lot from observing how this group functions.
What's fascinating is her observation about how the community is naturally dividing into specialized areas,
Right.
much like departments in a company.
Yeah.
There's a design team, a marketing group,
Mm-hmm.
even a finance section,
Wow.
all emerging organically based on people's skills and passions.
Wow.
It's almost like watching a company form in real time,
Yeah.
but without any top-down hierarchy.
It's like a living, breathing organism,
Yeah.
evolving based on the needs and contributions of its members.
Mm-hmm.
And for Mayumi, this is a valuable learning experience
Right.
because she's always worked independently.
She even admits to being surprised by how much she's enjoying this collaborative environment.
Yeah.
It challenges her assumptions about how she works best and highlights the power of community to push us outside our comfort zones in a positive way.
Right.
So are you someone who thrives in collaborative environments, or do you prefer to work independently?
Yeah.
Maybe there are elements of both that you can incorporate into your workflow.
It's a great question to consider. Now, it's not all just fun and games in the S-Lab community.
Right.
Mayumi also shares some insightful observations about the business world,
Okay.
drawing parallels to the trillion game drama she mentioned earlier.
What struck her was the importance of adaptability
Yeah.
and being willing to shift gears when necessary.
Right.
The entrepreneurs in the show are constantly responding to changes in the market, pivoting their strategies, and never getting too attached to one path.
And she connects us back to the art world,
Mm-hmm.
emphasizing that artists also need to be flexible and open to new approaches.
Right.
It's not enough to just create great art.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt to the evolving demands of the marketplace
Mm.
and the changing ways people consume and experience art.
This is a powerful message for anyone, really, in a world that's constantly changing. The ability to adapt is crucial for success and fulfillment. Whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, or navigating any other field,
Yeah.
think about areas of your life where you might need to be more adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any outdated approaches you're clinging to
Right.
that might be holding you back?
It's a question we all need to ask ourselves from time to time. Now, this next part I found particularly insightful.
Okay.
Mayumi shares how she's using her experience and skills to help others in the S-Lab community.
She has this incredible ability to see people's potential, to identify their unique strengths and talents.
Yeah.
She talks about how she can almost see what makes people special and guide them toward roles or projects where they can truly shine.
It's like she has a superpower for spotting hidden talents and helping others unleash their full potential.
Right.
And it's inspiring to see her using this gift to empower others within the community.
This brings up an interesting question. How good are you at recognizing the strengths of those around you?
Yeah.
Are there ways you can support and encourage their growth?
Right.
It's a reminder that building others up is a powerful way to build community and create a more supportive and fulfilling environment for everyone.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and what's even more remarkable is that Mayumi is doing all this while simultaneously exploring new creative avenues for herself.
Right.
Like the outdoor art exhibition she mentioned earlier.
It's clear that Mayumi is someone who's constantly growing, evolving, and seeking new ways to express herself and connect with the world around her. She's a true inspiration.
Yeah.
And her story is a reminder that we can always find ways to pursue our passions and make a positive impact,
Yeah.
no matter how busy our lives may seem.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into this conversation, I want to circle back to the podcast proposal one last time. It's fascinating to hear the playful banter between Hideki and Mayumi as they iron out the details.
There's this great moment where they joke about the format, the time slot, even the possibility that the whole thing might fall apart after a few episodes.
It reminds us that even with all the serious discussions about art, business, and technology, they haven't lost their sense of humor or their willingness to embrace the unknown. It's not about having all the answers or a perfect plan, but about being open to the journey and having fun along the way.
And that's a valuable lesson for anyone starting a new project, especially a creative one.
Right.
Don't be afraid to experiment, to play, to embrace the uncertainty.
Yeah.
Who knows what amazing discoveries might await.
And speaking of embracing the unknown, Mayumi reveals that she specifically chose to sign with a PR company
Okay.
whose president is also an artist.
Oh, wow.
She wanted someone who understands the unique challenges and nuances of the art world.
That's such a smart move.
I know, right?
It shows that she's being strategic and thoughtful about who she partners with.
Right.
She's not just jumping at any opportunity.
Yeah.
She's prioritizing alignment and shared values, which is essential for any successful collaboration.
It's a reminder that we should be intentional about who we surround ourselves with,
Absolutely.
both personally and professionally.
Are the people you're working with in line with your vision and values?
Yeah.
Do they support your goals and aspirations?
Right.
These are important questions to ask as you build your own network and pursue your passions.
As we transition to the final part of this conversation, I'm struck by how much we've already unpacked.
Yeah.
From AI and art to the power of community and the evolving role of the artist, Hideki and Mayumi have given us a lot to think about.
I'm excited to see what other insights they have in store for us.
Yeah, it really feels like we're getting a master class
Yeah.
and navigating the intersection of art, entrepreneurship, and community work. And as we delve into the last part of the conversation, they touch on something that I think is incredibly relevant to all of us, no matter what field we're in. The idea of finding mentors and allies who understand our vision.
Yeah, they start talking about the importance of having people in their corner
Yeah.
who can support their creative journeys and who get what they're trying to achieve.
Right. Mayumi specifically mentions that she chose to sign with a PR company
Okay.
whose president is also an artist
Oh, wow.
because she wanted someone who truly understood the nuances of the art world.
Yeah, that's a great example of how important it is to be selective about who you work with.
And it makes me wonder, who are your mentors and allies? Are there people in your network who could be championing your work, helping you navigate the complexities of your field?
It's a question we're pondering. We all need those people in our lives who can offer guidance, encouragement, and a fresh perspective.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredibly rich conversation, I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that stand out to you?
Well, for me, one of the most compelling themes is the idea of adaptation. Both Hideki and Mayumi are grappling with the changing landscape of the art world, the rise of technology, and the need to be more entrepreneurial in their approach.
It's like they're both recognizing that the old ways of doing things are no longer enough.
Right.
They need to evolve and find new strategies for creating, connecting, and thriving in a world that's constantly changing.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond the art world.
Yeah.
It's relevant for anyone trying to navigate the complexities of the modern world, whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, a student, or just someone looking to grow and evolve.
Another takeaway that struck me is the power of community.
Yes.
Mayumi's experience with the S-Lab community shows how valuable it can be to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals who can support us, challenge us, and inspire us to reach our full potential.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go it alone. There's strength in collaboration and learning from others, and in building a network of people who share our passions. Think about your own life. Are there communities you could be part of that would offer support and inspiration?
And finally, I think this conversation highlights the importance of staying curious, open-minded, and willing to experiment.
Yes.
Both Hideki and Mayumi are constantly exploring new ideas, trying new things, and pushing themselves outside their comfort zones.
And that's ultimately what leads to growth, innovation, and fulfillment.
Right.
Are you embracing new experiences and challenges? Are you open to trying things that might seem a little scary or uncertain?
Yeah.
Remember, sometimes the greatest discoveries happen when we step outside our comfort zones.
So as we leave this deep dive, I'm left with a thought-provoking question for you, our listener.
Okay.
What can you learn from Hideki and Mayumi's experiences?
Well,
How might you apply their insights to your own creative endeavors, professional goals, or even your personal life? Are you embracing the changes happening around you? Are you seeking out supportive communities? Are you willing to experiment and try new things?
these are powerful questions to consider, and I encourage you to reflect on them and see where they lead you after all. That's what it feels like. The deep dive is all about sparking curiosity, inspiring exploration, and empowering you to make meaningful connections between seemingly disparate ideas.
So keep diving, keep exploring, and keep those questions coming. We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive into the world of ideas.
Yeah, it really feels like we're getting a masterclass
Yeah.
in navigating the intersection of art, entrepreneurship, and community building.
And as we delve into the last part of their conversation, they touch on something that I think is incredibly relevant to all of us, no
Okay.
matter what field we're in. The idea of finding mentors and allies who understand our vision.
Yeah, they start talking about the importance of having people in their corner, you know, who can support their creative journeys and get what they're trying to achieve.
Right. Miyumi specifically mentions that she chose to sign with a PR company,
Okay.
whose president is also an artist, because she wanted someone who truly understood the nuances of the art world.
That's a great example of how important it is to be selective about who you work with.
And it makes me wonder, who are your mentors and allies? Are there people in your network who could be championing your work and helping you navigate the complexities of your field?
It's a question worth pondering. We all need those people in our lives who can offer guidance, encouragement, and a fresh perspective.
Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredibly rich conversation,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that stand out to you?
Well, for me, one of the most compelling themes is the idea of adaptation. Both Hideki and Mayumi are grappling with the changing landscape of the art world,
Right.
the rise of technology, and the need to be more entrepreneurial in their approach.
It's like they're both recognizing that the old ways of doing things are no longer enough, you know?
Right.
They need to evolve and find new strategies for creating, connecting, and thriving in a world that's constantly changing.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond the art world. It's relevant for anyone trying to navigate the complexities of the modern world, whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, a student, or just someone looking to grow and evolve.
Another takeaway that struck me is the power of community.
Yes.
Mayumi's experience with the S-Lab community shows how valuable it can be to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals who can support us, challenge us, and inspire us to reach our full potential.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go it alone. There's strength in collaboration, in learning from others, and in building a network of people who share our passions. Think about your own life. Are there communities you could be part of that would offer support and inspiration?
And finally, I think this conversation highlights the importance of staying curious, open-minded, and willing to experiment.
Yes.
Both Hideki and Mayumi are constantly exploring new ideas, trying new things, and pushing themselves outside their comfort zones.
And that's ultimately what leads to growth, innovation, and fulfillment.
Right.
Are you embracing new experiences and challenges? Are you open to trying things that might seem a little scary or uncertain?
Yeah.
Remember, sometimes the greatest discoveries happen when we step outside our comfort zones.
So as we leave this deep dive, I'm left with a thought-provoking question for you, our listener. What can you learn from Hideki and Mayumi's experiences? How might you apply their insights to your own creative endeavors, professional goals, or even your personal life? Are you embracing the changes happening around you? Are you seeking out supportive communities? Are you willing to experiment and try new things?
These are powerful questions to consider, and I encourage you to reflect on them and see where they lead you. After all, that's what they do. The deep dive is all about sparking curiosity, inspiring exploration, and empowering you to make meaningful connections between seemingly disparate ideas.
So keep diving, keep exploring, keep those questions coming. We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive into the world of ideas. Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we're going to be taking a look at all sorts of things going on in Japan.
Yeah, real eclectic mix this time.
Yeah, we've got traditional art, modern art, some AI stuff.
Well, it's not hard, I think. There's some really interesting events and exhibitions happening right now. Rocky exhibition, for example, is one that I love.
Yeah, I saw that Raku's work is all over the popular, but this is the first major exhibition.
It's a pretty big deal for fans of the traditional Japanese art.
Definitely. And then on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, we've got that huge installation going on in Yokohama.
Oh, right, the one with all the, what were they, giant inflatable things?
Yeah, and lights and music.
Yeah.
Those are really cool.
I saw something online, it definitely looks like an experience.
Yeah. Then there's the Art Month project going on in Tokai, which is interesting because it's more about bringing art into everyday life.
Right, it's not just about going to a gallery or a museum, but encountering art in unexpected places.
streets or in local businesses. It's a really cool concept.
Yeah, it seems like there's a real push to make art more accessible and engaging for everyone.
And speaking of accessible and engaging, we've got Lego art on the agenda today.
Ah, yes. The Lego Mona Lisa. That caught my eye too.
It's pretty amazing what they can do with Legos these days.
It really is. Those sets are so intricate and detailed, they're not just for kids anymore.
Definitely not. Okay, so moving on from visual art, we've also got a story about a gifted shamisen player.
Right. This article really delves into what it means to be labeled as gifted and the pressures that come with that.
Yeah, it's not always easy being exceptionally talented. There's a whole other set of expectations and challenges.
Exactly. And this article explores those nuances in a really insightful way.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about some movie news. It looks like a Star Wars movie has been pulled from the schedule.
Oh, wow. Yeah, these big budget films often face delays, but with Star Wars, it's always a big deal because of the massive fan base.
Right, I mean, people get really invested in those stories.
For sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that project.
All right, before we jump into the world of AI, let's talk about one more art event, the Monet's Water Lilies exhibition.
Ah, Monet, a classic. There's something so captivating about his work.
Yeah, it's timeless. And this exhibition is supposed to be really immersive, with a special focus on those iconic water lily paintings.
I read that they've even created a cafe and a hotel inspired by Monet's work. Talk about a full sensory experience.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's shift gears now and talk about something completely different, AI. And specifically, the fact that Audrey Tang has been advising Japanese startups. That's a pretty big deal.
It is. Audrey Tang is a real pioneer in the tech world, known for their expertise in both digital innovation and social responsibility.
Right, and that combination is what makes this so interesting. What kind of guidance do you think they're offering these startups?
Well, knowing Tang's work, I'd say they're probably emphasizing the importance of developing AI that benefits society as a whole.
So not just about creating technology for technology's sake, but really considering the ethical implications and the potential impact on people's lives.
Exactly, and I think that's where it gets really fascinating.
Because it's not always clear-cut, right? Like, how do you define good AI? How do you ensure that it's used ethically?
Those are the big questions. And I think Tang's involvement suggests that Japan is taking those questions seriously.
Which is encouraging because AI is becoming more and more prevalent in our lives every day.
Absolutely. It's no longer a futuristic concept. It's already here. And it's shaping the world around us in profound ways.
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations to think critically about how we develop and use this technology.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, well, I think that's a good place to take a break for now.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll dive even deeper into some of these topics and explore their connections in more detail. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we're exploring all sorts of interesting things happening in Japan. So before the break, we were talking about Audrey Tang's work with Japanese startups in the field of AI.
Yeah, really fascinating stuff. I'm curious to hear more about what kind of guidance Tang is offering these startups.
Well, one of the key things Tang emphasizes is the need for transparency in AI development. They encourage startups to be really open about how their technology works and to consider the potential impact it could have on society as a whole.
So it's not just about building cool tech, but also making sure that it's used ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. Tang's work really highlights the importance of social responsibility when it comes to AI development.
And that makes a lot of sense given how rapidly AI is advancing.
It's no longer just a science fiction concept. AI is already having a huge impact on our lives, and it's only going to become more influential in the future.
Which is why it's so important to have these conversations now to think critically about how we want AI to shape our world.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Speaking of benefiting everyone, were there any specific examples that Tang shared about how AI can be used for social good?
Yeah, actually, there were several. For example, Tang talked about how AI can be used to improve disaster response systems, to personalize education, and to create more accessible healthcare options.
Wow, those are some pretty incredible applications.
Right. It's really exciting to see how AI is being used to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges.
It definitely gives me hope for the future. Okay, so before we move on, I wanted to circle back to something Tang mentioned earlier, the idea of combining Joule and AI intelligence. Can you elaborate on what that means?
Sure. It's a really intriguing concept. Essentially, it suggests that we need to move beyond a purely technical definition of intelligence when it comes to AI.
So it's not just about making AI smarter, but also about imbuing it with human values like compassion, empathy, and wisdom.
Exactly. The Joule aspect of intelligence represents those qualities that make us uniquely human. And Tang believes that we need to find ways to integrate those qualities into AI systems.
That's fascinating. I'm starting to see how this all ties back to the art world that we were discussing earlier. Do you think there are any connections between the ethical development of AI and artistic expression?
Oh, absolutely. Art has always been a way for humans to explore complex emotions, ethical dilemmas, and our relationship with the world around us. And I think AI can be seen as a new medium for that kind of exploration.
That's a really interesting parallel. It suggests that artists and AI developers can learn from each other, maybe even collaborate to create a future where technology enhances our humanity rather than diminishing it.
I completely agree. I think there's a lot of potential for cross-pollination between these two fields.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little more down to earth, marketing. We were talking about how the perception of marketing might be outdated, especially when it comes to trans fats. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Sure. The article you sent in highlights the fact that regulations for trans fats and margarine are different in Japan compared to the US. In the US, the FDA has put strict limits on the amount of trans fats allowed in food products. But those limits are not as strict in Japan.
So that means that some margarine products in Japan might still contain high levels of trans fats, which have been linked to heart disease.
Right, and that's why it's so important for consumers to be aware of these differences and to read food labels carefully.
It's a good reminder that we can't always rely on what we've heard in the past. We need to stay informed and make our own decisions based on the best available evidence.
Absolutely. And speaking of staying informed, let's talk about that Lego exhibition of iconic art.
Oh, yeah. The Lego Mona Lisa. I'm so amazed by that.
Me too. It's a great example of how art can be made accessible and engaging for people of all ages.
And it also speaks to the power of creativity. How we can take something as simple as Lego bricks and turn it into something truly extraordinary.
Exactly. It's a reminder that creativity knows no bounds, and that even familiar objects can be used to create something new and exciting.
Well said. Okay, I think it's time for another quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up our exploration of these fascinating topics and consider what they mean for all of us. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's amazing how much we've covered in this episode about Japan.
Yeah, we've gone from traditional art to the future of AI, and even touched on margarine and Star Wars.
It's a real mix, but there are definitely some common threads running through it all.
Like what?
Well, it seems like there's a real push towards innovation and creativity in all these different areas.
Yeah, I see that. Whether it's reimagining classic art with Legos or using AI to solve social problems, there's a real sense of possibility and a willingness to experiment.
Exactly. And it's not just about technology either. We talked about how the film industry is tackling more complex themes and challenging audiences to think critically.
Right, it's like entertainment is evolving to reflect the changing world around us.
And that brings us back to the power of art. Whether it's film painting, music, or even something like Lego art, it has this incredible ability to make us think, feel, and connect with each other.
I completely agree. Art helps us to understand ourselves and the world around us in new and unexpected ways.
And in a world that's becoming increasingly complex and interconnected, those connections are more important than ever.
Definitely. So what do you think are the key takeaways from all of this?
Well, I think it's a reminder that we're living in a time of incredible change and opportunity, and that we all have a role to play in shaping the future.
I like that. It's about being curious, staying informed, and embracing new ideas.
And never losing sight of the things that make us human, like creativity, compassion, and a sense of wonder.
Well,
It's been great exploring all these topics with you today.
likewise.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world around you.
Hello. I have to go now. I have to clean my room, so next time, see you next time. Bye.